Venus, the planet that represents beauty, harmony, peace, kindness, love, and romance, not to mention money, is moving through the sign of Sagittarius all the way from October 17th to November the 10th. And this can bring us a lot of positive developments in the areas I just outlined. She is not in bad shape here, unlike her departure from Scorpio. But we're also going to talk about how Venus moving into Sagittarius, that fire sign, the sign of the archer, is going to come bring us to the coming closure, the ending, the final grand finale of what she has been doing in all of our lives since 2009, as she has continually impacted the world and each of our lives individually by having these long conversations with Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. We have been through something basically 2008, 2009 to the closing chapter right now of something to do with the love of power and the power of love, betrayals, fatal and toxic love attractions, the dark side of control, especially control of the feminine, control over women, as well, of course, as some of the dark sides of sexual misconduct tales. This is Pluto in Capricorn when he engages with the Venus narrative. And we don't get this a kind of event, this kind of 16-year run of this dark shadow stuff for another 248 years. And so we're going to compare that to maybe some other things that have been going on in ancient history with this energy and how it might be like, whew, finally, we're done with that story. Now, in your own life, it's also how you've been dealing with your Capricorn sky in your natal chart, your Capricorn whole sign sky, and your Venus part of your chart, where she has been traveling through her relational fields to Pluto in various ways, such as squaring Pluto in Capricorn, trining Pluto in Capricorn, sextiling Pluto in Capricorn. And indeed, it is a sextile to Pluto in Capricorn that is occurring in the month of this October, right around the time of her transition, October 16th, 17th, where we're feeling the final end, the grand ending point of this very intense Pluto, toxic, dark, traumatic energies, sometimes just about power, and Venus, love, romance, beauty, harmony, kindness, and peace. All right, so let's get started. If you're new to my channel, my name is Lori Lothian. I am using the Western Tropical Zodiac. Whole sign houses, fixed stars, and minor asteroids are my absolutely favorite cup of tea in astrology land. And I'll be talking today a little bit about all of those things. I'm also very prone to looking at the archetypal layers of the sky, not just the practical and predictive. And we'll talk about the archetypes of Pluto, Venus when they join together as well. If you are new to my channel and you'd like to get my 2025 All Signs bundle, it's coming out now in the pre-sale, meaning you purchase it now, I deliver it to you November the 17th. This pre-sale price will never exist again. You're buying the product. Well, I'm making the product. And this is my big dive, up to 2 hours for each sign, or buy the video bundle. And you'll have 24 hours of video content. You can share it with friends, family, relatives, I don't care who. And you can remember this as, your sun, moon, and rising. So if you have a different sun, moon, and rising sign, you should buy the bundle. You get more depth of insights into your year of 2025 storylines. When you're listening today for your sun, moon, or rising sign, I want you to think about listening to your sun as your kind of eternal essence, your core essential nature. It's not just your ego. In fact, your rising sign is more like the character you're playing in the game of life. If this was a simulation, that's your avatar, your ascendant. I'm playing the Aquarius character. This is Lori, right? But my sun is fire. It's made up of Aries fire. It's independent, fierce, offensive, combative. And then, of course, my moon. Now, what is your moon? My moon's Aries. That's kind of like your mind, your emotional set points, your body-mind complex, the animating life force or the soul of your being, where the sun is your eternal nature. So when you listen to all three, sometimes you get an affinity. I'm noticing as I get older, my sun signs are more accurate. My sun sign's more accurate. I think I'm living more from my core essential self, my true nature, and less from the character of Aquarius rising. It's ostensibly true. We'll see if that is or not. All right, so I'm going to talk now about the Venus story, and I'm going to talk about some world events, and I'm going to give you some lay of the land. But before I do, I want to share one thing. I love this jewelry, and I am fascinated and enchanted and intrigued because I got this outreach from somebody who's a part of the team at the product of the Otter Spirit Jewelry Company, and they give money to fund otter environmental help for otters in the world. Otters are these little playful critters that are so much fun. If you ever see an otter play, you'll know what I mean. And so they're putting money back into this kind of care of otters. But funny enough, their stuff is amazing. So and they got a hold of me because this is a zodiac, and I'm always wearing jewelry, as you guys know. And I have a whole bunch of beads in my collections from beads around the world. This is amethyst rose quartz, and this one is moonstone. And what they've done on their website is create a huge amount of stuff connected to astrology, as well as other things like the money prosperity trio bead sets and stuff like that. But I love how they've done it. So for amethyst, which is the rose quartz, it's for the signs of Aquarius, Pisces, Capricorn, and Aries. It represents the third eye. Everything comes in these pretty boxes. They're really actually quite beautiful with these really lovely little velvet pouches. And so, for example, I love it. I mean, I really do. And I said, it's authentic triple A grade. What do you call it? Triple A grade beads. Precious, semi-precious stones. They're high quality. Anyway, amethyst is for intuition, guidance, a balance, and third eye stories. And they have a little phrase for everyone. It's just kind of sweet. I am letting go of fear, and I am embracing grace. So, the moonstone, I am guided by grace, and it's for Cancer, Libra, Virgo, Scorpio folk. And then the rose quartz is I am love for who I am, and it's Taurus, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, and it's the heart chakra. If this kind of thing is intriguing to you, I think it's going to make these little, you can't read the cards, these little cards in the beautiful boxes, great Christmas gifts. I'll be sharing that with my family for Christmas. Check out my description box below because I have a link with my discount code, Lunatic Astrology. No, what is the code? I should know that. Give me a sec. Lunatic Astrology 20, all caps. It's in the description box. I'll pin it to the top of the comments. Every now and then someone asks me to share their stuff. I'm often sharing jewelry and artists and stuff like that. And I'm always saying no, because I'm really, just not my thing. But when I find something I love and I like, and I'm a jewelry, Venus and Taurus jewelry nut, this is what I would say, go for it. It's really beautiful stuff. It's high quality and it's deeply grounding, right? It's earth energy. And I've got a grounding mat under my feet right now, doing all my YouTube videos, doing all my online work. I find grounding is my biggest challenge. So when I wear mineral stones, I often also feel just back to the basics of here, me, now, earth. Okay, let's talk Venus. I was waiting for a Venus video that wasn't Venus and Scorpio to cover this one. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the sky. Let me show it. And just before I actually show you a picture of the sky, and so we can look at where Venus is going and how she'll be traveling and what she'll be doing in Sag and how this might impact you between October the 17th and November the 10th. And yes, that's overlapping with the election in the United States. I made this little chart for everyone to take a look at. Go ahead if you want to screenshot that. You'll see the patterns here of Venus connecting over and over again in the sky. And for some reason, I missed putting the whole thing in there. I apologize. But the first conjunction that happened way back in the day, was at the very first conjunction of Venus with Pluto. And why am I talking conjunctions? Because when we have what we have coming up on the 17th, as she's exiting Sag and she makes a final sextile to Pluto, we're completing what is a synodic cycle of Venus's conjunctions with Pluto. And this is kind of what the rhythm would look like. So basically, she was conjunct on December 28th of 2009. She conjunct Pluto at 3 degrees of Capricorn. And you can see I don't have the whole chart here, just parts of it. But by the time we got to November 25th, 2016, she was already making a conjunction to Pluto in Capricorn at 15 degrees. And then now, as we round it out on January 23rd, 2023, 27 degrees of Capricorn was her last conjunction in Capricorn. However, this is where it gets tricky. She's trying to breach or cross over to the new Aquarian land, where for the next 2 decades, she will be crossing into Pluto's company and meeting up with him in the sign of Aquarius. And it's a whole different feel. I mean, come on, Venus is the goddess of romance and love, and Spock, like, AI. We're going to see AI love affairs. We're going to see people falling in love with robots. I mean, the whole Pluto Aquarian realm is going to be a whole different kettle of fish. But I would also point you to the fact that the last conjunction of Venus with Pluto was February 17th, 2024 at 0 degrees of Aquarius, that superpowered degree where Saturn met as well with Jupiter in December of 2020. It is a very potent place in the sky. And also on December 7th, 2024, she finishes up forever and ever and ever the deeper story of her connection to Pluto in Capricorn. Because you see, Pluto went back to Capricorn September the 1st, allowing for her to make that last sextile, to meaning make something about the last thing she wants us to know, the last lesson. And it's positive. October the 17th, she flows in a beautiful, harmonious sextile to Pluto. And sextiles are the nature of Venus. And sure, she's in Scorpio, a sign of her detriment, but she's still Venus. Let's talk about what she might be bringing for you, me, and the world. You'll notice that if you were a Capricorn, Aries, Libra, or Cancer, sun, moon, or rising, you continually got activated big time for massive radical change in your perspective to do with love and power. Capricorn, Pluto, love of power, power of love stories, and how you really think about wealth. Because when Pluto and Venus are conjunct in the chart, it's called the trillionaire yoga or union, meaning that this is also about deep lessons about love and power and wealth in your life. So a lot of you Aries and sun, moon, and rising, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn have been learning the most lessons about what Venus is working with Pluto. And it will be next be that's the cardinal signs. It will next be the fixed signs. Oh my God, we Aquariuses, Leos, Doc, what are we going to do? Taurus and Scorpio fixed signs are going to get the next love of power, power of love stories of Venus Pluto lessons. And that includes wealth. We have that way that the god of the precious metals and the things that are like gold and silver under the earth, and the diamonds and the rubies, Pluto, and Venus, goddess of a girl's best friend, diamonds are a girl's best friend, will come together for all of the fixed signs to give them the lessons they need to do and learn with these themes of love, money, power, etc. Now, before I show you the chart, I took some notes. I did some research. I have a great little helper now. I've got an assistant helping me. Her name is Cassidy, and it's been a real great help, and another assistant as well, Jesse. And I got some research notes for you guys about what Pluto has been doing in Capricorn, top-down power structures, governments, despots, tyrants. I mean, the kind of energy of control and systematic control, Capricorn and Venus. And what some of the stories we've seen happen in our lifetime here. And what are they about? What has happened here? Well, one of the things that comes through the story, thank you to some research done by my people, is we saw the positive, the dark, and the light. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I just want you to get a flavor of it. So the dark side, of course, breaking now is the P. Diddy story, right? It's too funny because we need to talk about the idea of orgies and orgiastic decadence, because the Archetypal Universe by Ren Butler is literally the quintessential go-to book for looking at two planets, how they meet and how they merge their energy. And if you wanted to talk positive Venus Pluto stories, doesn't matter what sign, this is Capricorn conjunctions that happen, 16 times. 16 of those conjunctions have occurred since 2009. We have stories of intense and deep passions, renewing and regenerating forces in relationships, the power of love, the drive to unite, the interplay of beauty and the beast, a tendency on the dark side to obsessive attractions, like the movie Fatal Attraction, feelings of jealousy and possessiveness, passive aggression, and the love of power. And some great quotes: where there is great love, there are always miracles, by Willa Cather, is an example of the upside of a Pluto-Venus conversation, but then also the dark side of as well. So a dark side story could be something like, I'm looking for a nice quote for that for you guys. Joan Crawford, Mummy Dearest, right? Love is a fire, but whether it's going to warm your hearth or burn down your house, you can never tell. So you can see that there's quite a range here. We go all the way from things such as positive and negative, harmful temptations, sexual addictions, throwaway relationships, the urge to use sex or beauty for ulterior purposes, destroying what one has loved, loving what is lost or dead, Pluto, the god of the underworld, the shadow side of beauty, the challenging side of being too beautiful. And look at the cosmetic industry, like what's gone on with facial rejuvenation in quotes, and so extreme use of plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery techniques that have led to sort of monstrous outcomes, Beauty and the Beast, the beastly side of cosmetic procedures. Vulgar coarse sexuality, pleasure, scatology, which go Google it, pyrocarthus, transcendence, repulsion, the dark side of coming close, becoming close. And of course, he also talks about Tantra, sexual mysticism, but also orgiastic deities and festivals. And the goddess of sexual dominance, such as Kali, Lilith, Ashereth, Asherah, and Hecate. What I'd say here, we've seen it all, guys. We've seen it all. So we go back to the P. Diddy thing. All these sexual accusations are now becoming quite rife about his inappropriate conduct, his sexual foul play and harm he's caused to other people through basically his freak offs. This is kind of Venus's last stand. From 29 Scorpio, which already represents the underbelly of what's hidden and must be uncovered under the slimy rock, the research, investigation, and discovery of hidden things. Well, hello, it's all coming out now. People are coming out and talking about it. People are coming up and speaking about it who were at these freak offs. People who are harmed are now coming out. There's massive, one lawyer has 100 clients coming up with lawsuits against P. Diddy. There's a pile-up effect going on. I get that, but he's now imprisoned without bail because he's a flight risk, and it's all crashing down around him. And from 1995 to now, I believe it goes back that far. If I remember what I read correctly, that he's been in doing these kinds of things. Now, what you do in the privacy of your own orgy is your own business. It's what you do in ways that harm others, such as sex trafficking, which is one of the accusations, okay, or drugging people or getting them into compromising positions that lead to our ... APE. That's an algorithmic flag, so I can't say that word. So we got that dark side story. And what we say about that is maybe look to the 17th for some kind of definitive 16th, 17th, Venus flows to Pluto word on that story of the underbelly of power and wealth and influence, P. Diddy, and sexuality. We can bundle in, of course, Epstein Sex Island and Giselle Maxine, the woman who helped him. I can't remember her name. She is examples of the dark feminine working with being co-opted by the masculine to bring young women into situations of being basically sex slaved or sex trafficked. So she did that. And she was a woman. So it's not about always the bad men, the dark fathers, or the patriarchy. It's how women can collaborate with that and become a part of it as well. So we have the Epstein story. We have the Harvey Weinstein Me Too movement stories. This is definitely love of power, power of love, sexual misconduct, and all of the really gritty crap. And when we talk about Venus being about money and currency, and we talk about power in terms of Wall Street banks and economies and government bailouts, then we see the subprime loan scandal. Then we see Occupy Wall Street and disenchantment with some of these power structures that are in place. So we've seen a lot of that. Black Lives Matter in the ancient world, Capricorn ruled people of color. And so we all saw the dark underbelly of power over Black people who, were being inappropriately abused or beaten or killed by cops with no justification, pulling people over with no just cause, or the guy reaches in his glove compartment and you shoot him, or, could you ask for his ID? I mean, there's so many horrific stories of police brutality against Black guys, basically. So there's more of that dark side of Pluto. Power, but Venus, right? The love of power, how you can take advantage of power. You can take advantage of power because you have it. Absolute power corrupts absolutely is a great Venus-Pluto story because you fall in love with your own power. You become smitten by your own power. I would argue that nations that are ruled by Libra, right, Venus ruled nations such as the nation of Ai in the Middle East, has come into an absolute love of power, and the displacement of many peoples and the harm caused because of this new level of dictatorial power that's being presented by that country's leadership is a classic last gasp of the dark side of Capricorn. Is governmental, right? It's bodies of structure and power that are traditional. And we see this coming through hopefully October 17th with the sextile from Venus in Scorpio. There'll be some revelations uncovered to do with abuse of power. And in the case of the nation of Ai in the Middle East, it's going to be about their home and homeland, where Pluto and Capricorn is now direct, like the territory they own, in quotes, lesser or greater. And Venus, Scorpio, revelations, disclosures, things like that coming out of the underneath the dirty, slimy rock of and revealing truth. Scorpio is a truth seeker. It's always looking to uncover, to investigate, to understand things. And so what can be uncovered here around October the 17th, 16th, 17th will be still to be seen. I'm recording October 15th for my Patreon community. Roe versus Wade overturn. We're going to talk power over women. Venus keeps encountering a controlling top-down structure, Pluto, since 2009. So we see the overturn of Roe versus Wade in the Supreme Court. So power over women's reproductive rights. In Iran, we saw the United States condemn, by the way, in September of 2023. That was coming off of a Pluto-Venus conjunction earlier that year. The chastity bill and the hijab bill that Iran passed. And of course, we also saw a martyr, a female being killed during that time in September of 2022, maybe, or 3. So we're seeing these kinds of power over feminine choice, power over women's choice to dress how they want, to have reproductive decisions that they entirely control. Power positively can be had with Pluto Venus. It's not always negative. For example, in 1762, Catherine the Great overthrew her husband. Pluto was in Capricorn and Venus was connecting to Pluto and Capricorn, creating these synodic cycles. And Jay-Z and Beyonce got married. That's a great find from my assistant Cassidy on this one. Got married when Pluto was in Capricorn. Back in the day, I mean, it was early on, like 2009, and they are now a billionaire couple that's long lasting. So there you've got the trillionaire yoga, indeed the billionaire yoga for the marriage of Jay-Z and Beyonce in a Pluto Capricorn storyline. Pluto Capricorn Venus conjunction. So it can have positive outcomes. So let's go ahead and look at the sky. Let's talk about what Venus moving through Sagittarius means for you. But I want you to remember, it's not just Venus and Sag. It's Venus starting October 17th, closing the doors on a story that has been going on in your life since 2009 about Pluto-Venus storylines related to Capricorn. When Venus is going to meet again with Pluto, it's a done deal. You're finished forever. We're completely all over and never to be seen again. Venus will meet again with Pluto on, the date is December, excuse me, that's my old school notes, 7th. So December the 7th, 2024, we are finito as a world and as an individual with this story. Oh yeah, I'm always getting marker all over my hand. Like, what the hell is that? No, I'm not tattooing my palms. I'm going to throw that marker out wherever it is, because clearly it's not my best friend. Okay, it's like I didn't get it on my clothes. Don't forget, check out Otter Spirit, and I'll put a link to their website and a link through my link, my affiliate link, basically, that allows you to get the Lunatic Astrology 20 to get a 20% discount on their products. I will be sharing them again. I'm going to order some more of the jewelry because I absolutely just love it. So I'm now like, I'm an Otter Spirit girl. I really mean that, guys. It's so hard to find someone who asking me for sponsorship. I get about 5 sponsorship, would you like to talk about my product requests a week? And I almost never say yes. And this one was like, oh my God, this is cool stuff. All right. Let's get talking about the sky. Let me put it up for us and we'll get rolling. I just want to show you the P. Diddy chart for a minute because, I really want to highlight how Pluto in Capricorn at 29 degrees sitting on P. Diddy's Mars and also an asteroid called Mors Somnus is absolutely uncanny about how this is the time in which this person who had for years been participating in sexual misconduct activities, right? They could lead to where he is now, is literally what the sky is showing us. And this ties in with the end of the Venus Pluto narrative. It's just too good not to show you. And then we'll do your sign and go around the sky. Okay. I promise. But for the astro curious, we don't have a time for Sean Combs / P. Diddy, the rap singer, multimillionaire guy, but we do know that these are his planets on his November 4th, 1969 birthday. And I would argue he may indeed be a Capricorn rising, as you can see here, only because it makes sense that this is his really glowy reputation with Jupiter, Venus, Libra, etc. before the fall, but that he has this asteroid right here. Over here, this is Dionysius in the house of secrets and dark, forbidden topics, like forbidden sexuality. And he has the asteroid Bacchus, the other god of, divine intoxication, revelry, but also orgiastic ecstasy in the 12th house, which is also the 12th house of prisons, which could send him to prison. But because we have all of this in these hidden places where the orgy asteroids sit, it makes more sense. What I really wanted to show you here, most of all, was this. This is his Mars. And right now, Pluto is going direct over that Mars. And this is his time of being caught red-handed with an exalted Mars at his first house. It's funny, he's a sign of the Earth rooster when he was born in the Chinese zodiac, makes you think about a randy rooster at very many parties. And this god next to him, or this not a god, but this asteroid Mors Somnus, I'm going to read it to you because this is a conjunction. It is literally 11, 12, 15 minutes away, not even a degree, although it's out of sign. You might remember that Pluto set at 0 degrees of Aquarius most of this year, and also in the spring of the year before. And he began to get caught out. Little bits and pieces began to leak about him over the last year and a half. It's only now that there's a solid case, and he has indeed been arrested. Saturn in the house of sexuality, right, is sitting here. That's the asteroid Lilith. And so Saturn is a malefic in his house of sexual activity and sexuality, talking to Mercury, the revealer of secrets in Scorpio, and his sun. And that creates a T-square, all right, to this placement of the actual asteroid that we're about to discuss. And so he's in it, thick of it. And I'll just read the delineation for you of the meaning of this asteroid. And you won't believe it. But yet I do believe it, because as Mars Pluto, his desire to explore the darker sides of Mars, which is robust sexuality at the very best, passion, sexual energy that he carries in his being, no matter what degree. We don't know that this is his ascendant. We don't know for sure what houses we went on. When I told you about these houses here, it's because it seems like this could indeed be a Capricorn rising individual, but I cannot say for sure. But I can say for sure that Mars, exalted 29 degrees somewhere in his chart in some whole sign house, is within a tight proximate conjunction to the asteroid that I'm about to read to you. So here we go. It's called Mors, M-O-R-S, Somnus, S-O-M-M-U-S, and the asteroid's a huge long name, 341520. So this is actually a binary. There's two of them. There's Mars. There's two. There's Somnus and Mars Somnus. Mors meaning like death. So Somnus and Mors Somnus, a binary. This body was named after the Roman Mors and Somnus. So twin gods of the underworld. You don't get much more underworld than his world. He was also accused by another rapper of causing the assassination or the death of another rapper, musician who died. Can't remember his name. So we have really kind of mafia underworld energy with P. Diddy or Sean Combs' story. Children of the night and darkness. So the two gods, Mors and Somnus, are children of the night and children of darkness. Mors, which means thanatos or death, by the way, the death urge, is a personification of death, and Somnus, hypnos, of sleep, powerful unconscious forces impacting one's life, in the case P. Diddy's life, awareness of the precarious balance of life and death. Now, to me, when I think about this, the hypnosis or the somnus part of it in the underworld, I think about the drugs that are apparently or allegedly involved in some of his freak off parties, where people in states of intoxication were literally unaware of what was going on and what they had gotten themselves into, particularly the more vulnerable. Some of the accusations are against minors at this point. And I just watched a show, it's got 1 million views in 12 hours or something, of one of the women who called out P. Diddy years ago. No one believed her. And she's back talking about it. She was an artist musician, got pulled into a circle, left the orgy, had to get a taxi, called, I think the police to help her. But she was like, none of this, please. She was not that type. But she was like, what the hell is this thing that's going on around me? And she was being targeted by Sean Combs to get down with him kind of vibe. And she left the party. But there's evidence, and she talked about it to a few people and she reported it, but apparently nobody quite followed through, I don't know, 15 years ago. Okay, so that's enough of that. You can just see how crazy this story is, that it's indeed something that, because of Pluto right now sitting on his Mars, and because Venus is sextiling from the sign of Scorpio in the real time sky, right? Somewhere in Scorpio, he's getting this activity. Look for 16th, 15th, 16th, 17th of October, big more stories about the situation. And it closes a chapter for us in the world about, Weinstein, Epstein, the dark side of all this stuff, the really dark side of abuse of power and love of power and toxic sexuality, etc. Okay, so let's do the sky for all of us individually. We're going to talk about your sign now. We're talking about how Venus and Sagittarius can unfold some new stories for you over the course of the next couple of weeks, well, through to November the 10th, and also reminding you of the chapter you are now closing, a big, deep 16-year lesson in your own life about power, love, money, wealth, etc. And here we go. So you'll be able to see, I hope, that we have in the sky right now this story. Now, there's a lot of junk in the trunk here. Just try not to get too confused about all the planets that are there. I might remove some for simplicity when we do the all signs portion in deep dive. But there's Venus at 29 degrees of Scorpio on October 17th. Therefore, it will kind of feel like you're getting the vibe of her last gasp of the Pluto story as she sextiles Pluto anywhere starting around the 15th, 16th, and 17th. And she's going to cross the fence, like if I was in Washington, D.C., just shortly after 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and enter her Sagittarius narrative. Remember, you are closing out the story of Pluto in Capricorn since 2008, and Venus continually talking to him from different angles, square, and the sextile is the last version of the closing sextile. This closing sextile is closing out immediately stories that you've been dealing with, as I mentioned earlier, since the beginning of this last conjunction with Pluto, which is February 17th, 2024. That conjunction happened in your 11th, in Aquarius, but it's still about a longer story of the toxic love of power, power of love narratives that now each sign is finishing. I will address it when I get to your sign. You can see she's about to jump into the fence with a hell of a lot of asteroids, right? She's going to come into contact with this big party that's traveling through Sagittarius. This is not incidental. There's something about it. So let's talk about it. Let me just riff with it for a bit. By the way, Sagittarius is the ascendant of the United States of America, the ascendant of Netanyahu, and the ascendant of Joe Biden. So keep in mind, those three entities are now being influenced by what Venus is up to. Venus is moving forward, and she's crossing into, I believe Biden might be at 3 degrees Sag and Netanyahu 9 in my memory, but she's crossing into the territory where those individuals have their ascendant. United States is 12 degrees as a nation of the sign of bows and arrows, right? Sagittarius is a war sign, by the way, bows and arrows. So, and that's the goddess of victory and war, Athena, and she's very lawyerly, and she's coming up for contact by Venus too. As Venus is moving on, she hits the nodes of fate, and she sextiles them, creating a wedge. The wedge that Venus is creating on October the 22nd, at the very best, could look like some kind of peace negotiation being foisted upon situations of war in the world. And I'm hopeful that that could be the case, because we do have Juno in Libra for peace treaties and contracts and harmony, and we still have the sun there. So we kind of have around October the 22nd, a moment of hope. So everyone pin that in your calendar for a moment of hope around peace treaties, ceasefires, negotiations, ends of conflicts, harmonious completions of difficult circumstances connected to war. And wars, the United States has got its finger in the pot, because this is happening on the ascendant of Biden, Netanyahu, and the United States as well. There's asteroid America in a sextile to Venus as we look at the possibility. There's asteroid America in a flow to the south node with Juno, contracts, agreements, and negotiations. And this is the ascendant of Israel. Israel is a Libra rising at 23 degrees. We see peace negotiations possible, contracts, alliances, Juno, solar light leader. We have a flow from the asteroid America. And on, again, October 22nd, give or take a day, we have Venus trying to pull off some peace if she can. After that, game off. It's kind of last chance saloon, if you ask me. As she moves forward, she's going to now bump into Asclepius. This Asclepius asteroid she's kind of chasing him, and she reaches him on October the 26th. He's like resurrect the dead. He's the asteroid of medicine and healing. There may be some very big news stories, especially given that around the 9th or 10th degree, again, Biden and Netanyahu are being activated personally to do with matters of healing, to do with matters of resurrection, whatever that might mean. It's pre-election. I don't know if Biden's being resurrected or he's being healed. It does square Saturn, however, and Saturn over here is a malefic. So Venus is really having to do something with a lot of pushing things uphill, a lot of effort being required by her to get something to happen, a lot of persistence and perseverance in something to do with maybe still peace. Maybe peace is on the table still. Gosh, we still have Juno hanging in it by a thread in the house of peace treaties and peace agreements. I mean, the sign of peace treaties and peace agreements. Okay, we still have hope. Hope springs eternal. And as we move on and we see Venus continuing forward, she's going to jump into a connection with Lilith. And this is important because right here is the disqualified feminine. This is gender conflicts. This is the asteroid. This is places where usually things to do with females and female stories and demonized females are active. We still have Kamala Harris, trying to win the election. This is November the 1st, and she happens to be a Gemini rising, and this is in the house of her open enemies. And so she may be coming under great attack during this time. I'd say around Halloween into October 1st and 2nd, she may be undergoing a huge amount of intense difficulty for her storyline. And is it true or is it Memorex? Because this is a Venus also that is in a square to Neptune, the god of obfuscation, as well as Saturn hardship. As we move Venus forward, we see that she's now perfectly conjunct Athena. And Athena is the goddess of victory in war and strategy in war. And Venus is, of course, always trying to make peace. We have the 12-degree ascendant of the United States involved, of course, just behind Venus. This conjunction, these two together, forms a wedge in the sky. I'm going to show you the wedge by drawing my cursor across this line, Jupiter retrograde opposite Venus, and then a formation of another line to Chiron. Chiron's very involved in the whole story of the April the 8th total solar eclipse conjunct that solar eclipse. And so in that sense, we're looking at maybe things to do with war and healing and war wounds. And Chiron, the noble mentor of healers and healers, that told people not to kill for anything but good reasons, like survival, not from malice, not from anger, not from greed. So what we can always say is what's trying to heal. It could be a healing of a war wound in the world. Clearly, with this on the United States ascendant, is trying to be involved in that, opposite of retrograde Jupiter. Now we do have Kamala Harris connected to this Jupiter. It's close to, but not quite on her ascendant. And it's also close to, but not quite on Donald Trump's sun. So keep those stories in your imagination. And one thing I'd say about that wedge that's coming up for the world is that also we can note that Sisyphus is here. Sisyphus is where Venus is trying to catch, right? She's trying to catch him, but he's in the wedge. And let me tell you about Sisyphus, okay? A myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus was an evil king who killed visitors. An evil king who killed visitors to show his power. I can think of an evil king in the world that I think has that quality. This violated the sacred tradition of showing hospitality, which angered the gods, who punished him by forcing him to roll an immense boulder up a hill, only to have it roll back down when he was near the top. So the asteroid can be about starting over, the futility of an effort, pushing against the wind, having the rug pulled out from under you just when you thought you had things under control. Now, rug pulled out from underneath an evil king who thought he had things under control. Let's go with evil kings. Okay, I know we all have different politics, but what kind of world leader literally could be thwarted, have the rug pulled out from underneath them during the time of the wedge, which brings breakthrough? Again, we're going to say this is around November 2nd, just before the election. And by the way, I do not think Donald Trump is an evil king. All right. So I'm thinking more global politics. Just saying, just saying. Chiron is in the house of open enemies for the nation of Israel. So again, we're going to say, what is this story about if it's that part of the world? And it may or may not be, and maybe it may not be. And then finally, Venus keeps moving forward. And we get over here to, let's go. I'm moving her forward to see if she's going to catch Sisyphus. Sisyphus crosses the boundary to Capricorn before she can catch him, but she's within orb of this evil king all the way through until November the 9th. And then as she moves forward and she comes into the tail end of the sign of Sagittarius, we have her at 28 degrees on November the 10th. We notice that she is forming a square to Neptune. And if you want to go back a little bit, and that's a very delusional energy around things to do with money or power or love. And it's, of course, still in the ascendant place of the nation of the United States. And there's an election that happens on November the 5th. And if you go back to November the 5th, you'll see Venus at 22 degrees conjunct with an orb of Sisyphus, right? Conjunct Athena, strategy, etc. But in the house of open enemies for Kamala Harris, just so you know, and possibly a difficult time during this election. We'll see. We'll have to see what happens. The confusion of this story with Neptune, and literally it's like, what's everyone confused about? What is everybody unsure about? Why is it no one sure maybe who won or why they won or if they won this particular election? And you'll notice that Mars is opposite Pluto just before the election by sign, and there he is on November the 3rd, directly opposite Pluto, and he is in a T-square to Juno, the goddess of peace deals, but fairness and balance in any kind of partnership or relationship. So I'm not sure what to say. It's pretty darn intense. Possibly we're looking at some kind of fracture of agreements or partnerships coming up just before the election. Now, if you're running for election, that's your running mate. If you're Biden, it's your vice president. And my microphone just defaulted for no good reason. Idea why. So I'm going to summarize all of that by saying, I think that we're going to see some of what Venus is up to in Sagittarius, be attempting to be positive around war and peace matters and resolutions of those warring situations, especially in the Middle East. But also, I don't know what she's going to do or trying to do when it comes to the election story. Because it is going to look, with the unfortunate square to Neptune, like there's some kind of illusion, confusion, delusion, or fog around the results of this election or connections to the election. And will a running mate situation with Pluto opposite Mars square Juno, and Joe Biden has his sun in the sign of Scorpio, just so you know, will that look like some kind of calamity around existing partnerships? Like if Joe Biden wasn't alive and we're like 4 days before election, she's thrust into the presidency as she's also a candidate for election. Talk about complicated. All right, let's keep going and do your sign. We're going to start with Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. And it's a lot of junk in here and it's going to overwhelm the story. So let me just take it out, if you don't mind. Now, let me just take out all the stuff we don't really need to see. And you really don't need to see all these asteroids. I know they're there. Okay, I wouldn't remove them for our mental health, just so we don't have to stare at all of them all of the time. And we're also going to take out some of the asteroids that are in aversion to Venus. Venus is moving through Sag, but she cannot witness certain positions. She can't witness Sun and Juno. She can't see them over here. So we're going to maybe get rid of it for us. And we're talking what she's up to. You know, she cannot witness certain pieces of the sky, including Uranus, nor can she witness Mars. We call those inconjuncts or semi-sextiles or aversions. I'm going to leave Pluto in, obviously, because Pluto is a big deal, because we're talking about the end of the Venus-Pluto era, but everyone else is getting out of here. All right, goodbye. I know where they are. Not to sweat it. I'll tell you if I need to remind you. I want to look at a clean wedge is what I'm trying to do. All right. Good enough. Good enough. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this story for you guys. You are the Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign folk. Listen for all three if you like, but certainly Sun or Rising will be accurate. And when I look at the sky and I think about Venus traveling through your Sagittarius house every year, I mean, we know that that's your ninth house of good spirit, Lakshmi, and luck and power and wealth, in the sense that it's very fortunate. We don't mind her up here. I'm a sun and moon, Aries, and she brings good things as she flows towards us, and including luck, including wealth and prosperity, because of the Indian astrology definition. But she's also in the house of foreign shores, foreign lands, and book publishing, and what matters to do with book publishing deals, foreign shores, foreign lands, visas, passports, things to do with legal and court matters, higher education, academics, and learning situations are also highly activated. And she's here, as I said, October the 17th to November the 10th. You know, she's finished her story that you've been dealing with since 2009. On December 7th, it's closed door forever in this life. What have you been learning since 2009 when it comes to full Pluto intensity in this career and reputation space? And Venus kept hitting that Pluto every single time. Look to the 16th, 15th, 16th, 17th of October for the closing chapter of what has been a very intense power, love of power, decimation of career, great harm to your public reputation, going into the underworld, feeling sort of dragged into the underworld, difficult circumstances, beauty and the beast energy, and your public reputation and career stories. Those ups and downs, those dragged to the underworld stories, this kind of love of power, power of love. This is coming to an end. Your 10th house isn't just career, it's how people in the world perceive you. You know, you'll be projected on as evil and vile or beautiful and amazing. They'll see you as the beauty or the beast. Trust me, I'm learning this lesson with the trolls in the troll land of YouTube. And if you're listening, Maha Shakti, one more from you, and you're blocked. I'm seriously not going with your abuse. And so I would say, guys, think about where you felt like you being visible in the world has been a place where you might have been adored or you might have been like vilified. And that has been going on. I fell into the clutches of an evil, no, I'm going to say evil, it's not true, of a misguided guru who took advantage of my kindness and turned me into a scapegoat for the community he was running when I turned away from his tactics. And so even being scapegoated in your public reputation, Aries, have you seen that? Now, at the end of the story, you're finishing that. So look to, as I said, December 7th for a feeling of completion. You no longer need these lessons. And I am an Aries sun. And so that's my career, right? Sun, career and purpose. And I have finally figured out so many things about my career and purpose. I've transformed my own identity through the career storylines. And I have learned what it's like finally to handle great deals of success and authority and wealth in my career. But also I've learned about the dark side of that very same journey. And, you know, controlling bosses, narcissistic assholes that have power and authority over you in work situations or whatever. Those were the stories you've been working with. Now, done. Yay, you. What about the wedge? The wedge saying that me and my microphone are having a battle today. An absolute come back. Okay, it came back to life. Microphone, I don't like your persistent shit today. Okay, excuse me, scatology, Pluto. The wedge is simply this. Let's go straight to the wedge. The wedge is very, very active for you. We're going to pull it back a bit because the wedge is really active about here. And so you're going to go into some kind of breakthrough. Wedges bring a breakthrough energy. And the breakthrough energy, the wedge around November the 2nd, 3rd, the first few days of November may look like an incredible opportunity for you to break through in a wound of identity. How have you felt like you're just not really, all together in your career with your sun, your identity, your body with your rising, or a wound around your home and your safety needs as well. This Chironic wound is going to go bing, breakthrough. Jupiter is offering support from the 3rd house, but Venus has got her hand on the steering wheel middle, up the top there. She's flowing towards you. She's saying strategic knowledge and wisdom bring a breakthrough connected to identity wounds to do with writing, publishing, teaching, and traveling, and your identity. And it is now time to move into a new lightheartedness around that and some lucky breaks. Jupiter down there in the house of online world, social media, and writing is going to bring some opportunities for you. That's his thing, but they're from the past. Now, someone like me trying to write her book proposal for a patient agent for astrology book is examples of maybe having a breakthrough, because the wound is, I don't have time to do it. So where in your life do you feel like you've got a personal identity wound regarding travel, teaching, writing, siblings, local neighbors, and neighborhood matters? And then ninth house, your higher ideals, the meaning of your life, being on purpose in life. That wound is about to try to shift for you, and look for that turning point. November the 1st through to at least the 5th, or the 3rd. Okay, until the 3rd. Let me double check. Pretty active on the 3rd. It's still in engagement on the 4th and the 5th. So we're going to go November 1st to the 5th. Okay, for all signs. Let's move into the next sign, which is going to be Taurus. Taurus. I will actually get to Taurus. I just had to change the settings on my back end. Taurus sun, Taurus moon, and Taurus rising sign. Now, you're finishing a very old story that started in 2009, and this is the last gasp. You'll feel it closing down on the 17th. From the 15th to the 17th, how are you in the grand finale of some sort of intensity around love that is connected to Pluto in your 9th house and Venus in your 7th, because this is the closing sextile. So things to do with love and romance and sexuality and long-term committed partners and legal and court agreements and business partnerships are all coming into a critical turning point. Where have you been wounded in business deals or legal deals and business and legal partnerships? Where have you been wounded around academics and agreements with academic and university college settings? Where have you been deeply wounded in a relationship to a father figure, 9th house Pluto? And you are having a turning point of ending this forever, and the feeling of resolution maybe and final healing coming through as you approach the 15th through to the 17th. And then Venus is wiping her hands clean of that story. You are done. And she's moving you into a new narrative by December the 7th. This is well behind you. When I look at Sagittarius, where Venus will travel, and she does this yearly, and she'll be here October my brain 17th to November the 10th. Well, she's moving through your Sagittarius sky. It's good for money. I call this chunky money, but what I mean is you're not making it. It's unearned income. It's not from your direct earnings. It's an inheritance. It's money you share with a spouse. It's business endeavors. It's royalty income. It's stock investments. It's bank loans and mortgages. This kinds of shared resources is literally where she's shining brightly. And she's going to try to add some goodness to that part of your life. She's going to give you some positivity, especially given the fact that she flows to the nodes of fate. And she may allow you to accumulate some money suddenly, even that allows you to eliminate debt during this transit, if you have any debt to eliminate. One thing I think about her here is she's a goddess of sexuality and romance and a house of secrets. And if secrets are revealed around sexual matters, they're going to be very healing for you. Now, when Venus is in the 8th house, you're definitely going to wealth up. And I do want to think about the wedge. What can the wedge offer you? I mean, it can be anything, a tax rebate, guys. It could be, insurance payouts. But, she's going to flow in a wedge to Jupiter retrograde. And he's down in your 2nd house of paychecks and money and earnings and possessions and values. And Venus is also looking over at the wedge point of Chiron, the wound around addictions, especially things you ingest through your mouth or nose, because that's where Jupiter sits, going back over old territory. Chiron can be guide or mentor or a therapist or some healer or shaman, helping you undo your own self-undoing, getting rid of those self-sabotaging patterns, especially addictions. But when it comes to financial matters, there can be a breakthrough on this wedge as well. Again, we're talking about November the 1st to the 5th, when the wedge is most active. And you may have a sudden financial breakthrough. You may have a sudden breakthrough because somebody family is chironically impacted. Someone's sick in a hospital, in your case, father figures, but there can be a transmission of wealth, for example, coming from a legacy factor, like a father figure. Just one way it could play out. The other element about this is that because you also have Venus in a hidden house, it's not easy for you to see. It's kind of in aversion to your sun, moon, and rising. You may have some kind of positive, blindsided in a good way, reconciliation around money. If it's money that is borrowed, okay, so loans and debts, and that includes credit cards, mortgages, etc. Borrowed money matters can resolve in a positive and healing way, especially, by the way, if there's any foreigners involved, far off foreign shores and foreign entities involved in resolutions of financial matters, including indebtedness. All right, let's move forward and talk about the next sign. What about Gemini, sun, moon, and rising? It is a kind of a nice sky for you guys because we have a Venus in the 7th house, which always looks like good for your love. But before we get to that part of it, Gemini, what about the old story? Pluto wants to clean up the closets and close down the doors of 2009 to this December 7th, the last time you're dealing with Pluto-Venus stories, when Pluto is in Capricorn. And this has been an intense journey of transformation around inheritance monies, around money through spousal shared resources and separations, 8th house money, money through royalty and passive income, and the wealth you can generate that way as well. And this is ad income on YouTube if you're one of those types. And this is the power place for you. Love of power, love of money, power of love. All these stories have been trying to germinate and clear and heal since 2009. And with Venus and Pluto and Capricorn, sexual trauma secrets from your past or your family of origin also being dug up since 2009. As Venus is completing a sextile, as I mentioned earlier, which is happening from the 15th to the 17th, we know that this is the last story, and it can be a resolution of these matters, especially if it involves money that you have on a loan, a mortgage, a credit card debt, things to do with money connected to leases, pets, or work matters, and resolution around that financial story. I mean, you could also have a very powerful romance emerge in a workspace, kind of like, and it's healthy. I fell in love with my workmate or my colleague or coworker, or my boss, secret love affair. And if that happens to occur, like in the middle of November, October the 15th to the 17th, and it probably is a positive version of the difficult versions you might have encountered. Finally, we're moving into the new story, and that's the Venus moving through your marriage house or your long-term committed love or your legal agreements or your audience and marketplace. Now, Venus traveling through here can really favor the one you're with. They may have some luck. They may have some good things happening. An audience or marketplace, it can bring very interesting that are going to empower you. You may also find that during her 3-week transit here, October 17th to November 10th, you could be very glowy in the public eye of the audience and marketplace, should you have such a thing. Venus is also going to form a wedge, and the wedge is going to be a very breakthrough energy as the tension between Jupiter and Venus. You are Jupiter and you're retrograding now. You've been expansive, but you have to go back and deepen your bounty. You've been like larger than life, and maybe like me, bit off more than you can chew. I have my sun here, but don't forget progressed planets. My progressed sun is not as important as your natal planets, but I certainly bit off more than I can chew in my YouTube production schedule, and I'm teaching a class. But that aside, Venus says, I'm going to work with Chiron. Where is that wound that you've been dealing with since 2019? Maybe to do a little bit with how you don't feel like you belong, like you're the outcast, the outsider amongst your social group or social circles or friendship networks. Or maybe you've just been wounded in the career gains area directly, like the way the money has or hasn't been coming to you, because ultimately that's the 11th house story. Oh no, come on. This mic is actually not in a happy condition today. So now I know I sound like I can fix it. So funny. I love this microphone. Why is it in a hot mess today? All right. No, it's trying to come back from the dad. Okay. I have connectivity issues with my mic is how I'm seeing it. I'll be right back. I have to fix it. You do. Don't even ask. It's fixed. It's mysteriously not working again. Like, I don't know. I don't know. All right. Am I sharing, guys? Sorry about that, Geminis. Yep. So it looks to me like you're going to find yourself a breakthrough around those wounds of the 11th house. And, an elder sibling, one above you, is represented by the 11th house. So any wounds with one sibling above you can be very profoundly shifted in negotiations and harmonious connections. Venus is in Sag and Jupiter is aligned to support that transition to something better with that sibling. Or a friend. You could have had a falling out with a friend, a very, deep disconnection from someone that you care about, and it could be a story of resolution of that difficulty. Otherwise, your long range dreams and goals and plans for your life belong to the 11th house, and there's a healing of the wounds of that as well. You'll feel this transition, October 31st to November the 5th, where there's a story of healing, and you're using Athenian strategic stories, or a strategic person can come into your life as well, like a lawyer, by the way, but just a strategic person with Athena Venus that helps you resolve. 11th house matters. Okay. Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign is kind of a sky that says you're done. This is the last gasp, the 15th of October through to the 17th, and you are now no longer engaging in the Pluto Capricorn Venus narrative that started in 2009. It is about letting go of that story because you've learned the lesson, not because you gave up in defeat. And where Capricorn sits for you Cancers is your marriage house. Those long-term committed love stories. I know a lot of you Cancers who got involved with, narcissist or dramatic and what do you call it? Horrible endings to long-term committed love stories where you were left shell-shocked and hollowed out. You may also have found that power, control, betrayal, really hard love and marriage stories have been a narrative for you, including struggles over power and resources as well. But this is coming to an end. And betrayal and all of that is very Plutonian with Venus. And fatal attractions, etc. Stalkers. Have you been stalked? I forgot to add stalkers to the narrative. I had that in my list from Cassidy. So you can definitely looking at the end of that narrative. But what have you learned? Because Venus is completing it on the 17th and that beautiful sextile to Pluto from the end of Scorpio. And it can really heal you sexually as well in the areas of your life where you felt your own sexual and romantic stuff has been really toxic or really challenging you. And, if you have any power struggles that you've engaged in a long-term committed love story that involve matters to do with your children that you co-parented, those endings and those things are coming to a shift, and no longer should you be or will you be engaging them. And sometimes with just Pluto in the 7th house, you might have gone through serious legal downdrafts in your life and serious legal hardships regarding matters of law and legal contractual agreements, and those are ending as well. For most of you, it's really difficult love stories and romantic love and long-term love stories. Now that is ending, and hopefully you're learning a final lesson about joy, enjoyment, finding the true pleasure of life, finding your true what is going to truly turn you on when it comes to engaging with any kind of other person, whether in business or love, and bring you joy. Venus is in the house of her joy. And at 29 degrees of your Scorpio sky, when this happens to be active, through the 15th to the 17th of October. As we move forward, she moves into Sagittarius. And when she's in Sagittarius, her story is a brand new story. She wants to help you October the 17th to November the 10th when it comes to job, work, pets, rental property agreements, debts. She's there to lend her support in the 6th house matters. Yet she does form a wedge. Oh, also rental agreements and property agreements for sure in her connection to the nodal axis in your 4th and 10th house. But she's also connected very strongly to that Jupiter in a wedge. We got to look at what that is. Like October 31st to November the 5th, you're coming to this breakthrough around career and purpose. You may have been struggling since 2019 to identify a real authentic purpose and career alignment for yourself, and some wounds of outcast, outsider, or something not just quite right with the career, work story and reputation. And now wounds to the reputation career house can can have breakthrough healings that are destined. And Venus is supporting that by trining from the work and job house. So some of you might get a new job. Some of you might be hired. Some of you might get a raise or promotion. Jupiter, backroom deals and negotiations, things that are karmically owed to you, things from your karmic treasure chest of past lives, looking like it gives you a really sweet breakthrough in matters to do with the career and reputation. And don't forget that eclipse that we had on April the 8th is really trying to also do the same thing through to next April. So there's a huge momentum here for you to really up level in that career and reputation story and sort of get rid of this feeling like you're like, you don't even belong to your own success. You do belong to your own success, and it's time to claim it. So Chiron is helping you find that truth. When it comes to pets, there can be some changes in your life regarding pets during this window of October 31st to November the 5th. Just keep that in mind as well. And I don't know, but Venus is trining that, that Juno, and she's kind of like sextiling. I mean, it's kind of like, do you want to sign on the dotted line for a new animal in your life? Is it time to buy or purchase a new pet? It's all very possible under this energy, or sign a new rental contract or lease, whether you're the landlord or the leasee. Those narratives look very Cancer for you. I bet you a lot of Cancers, if you're going to rent a property and you're a tenant, will have a successful breakthrough outcome at the end of October and the first week of November. Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. I might need a food break, so I'm going to go a little bit more and then I'm going to go eat. Leo, sun, moon, and rising. It looks to me like you're closing out a long story, a very long journey through the Pluto 2009 Venus conjunctions. And what could that mean? Well, you've learned a lot about the dark side of work and service and job, and that some of the challenges of being in indebtedness. I'm a slave to my work, or toxic bosses and toxic colleagues and coworkers and work situations. You may have lived through the death and loss of pets that you love deeply, and that's been very difficult in your soul for you, that those losses since 2009. Pluto, Venus in the 6th house can also be toxic love and work relationships that you've lived through, or stalkers from work. You may also have gone through some really important and dramatic changes regarding financial matters to do with loans and debts and money owed, as well as money owed to you, and some of the hard lessons around that. Because when you give somebody money and they owe you money, you've got 6 house stories going on, and you've had some deep losses or challenges there. You're learning some authentic levels of wealth and power within yourself through this storyline. Venus is, what do you value? And you can figure that out when you have money debt issues working through the sky. You're going to look at this time and you're going to rear view it by December the 7th. You are finished with the story. There is no more love, money, debt that you need to worry about. You're finished. You're done. You're complete. Now, moving into the next story is Venus is moving into Sagittarius. Oh, and health challenges. Yes, I'm sorry. Venus, Pluto, you've been struggling with really working through some very scary or challenging health matters ever since 2009. And that cycle is ending as well. Venus rules certain things in our body, our reproductive system, for example. So there may be some of those matters that you've been working through as well. Well, then we have the new story. Venus is moving through Sagittarius, and she's going to be in Sagittarius for a long time, the October 17th to November 10th. And this is where she can bring you more joy, more fun. She's in her joy, and the joy of life can be stimulated. You might find yourself fun, play, pleasure, romance, sexuality, and fun times are going to happen. Venus in your 5th house is money luck around lottery wins and tickets. It's also fertility and getting pregnant, you or your partner. So get that one under your sleeve there. You might want to have a baby. You can do it here. But when Venus is in your natal 5th house, your creativity and inspiration and joy in life are all up leveled, including entrepreneurial business success. And she was going to want to do something called a wedge. And the wedge is like a breakthrough, and it's happening like October 31st through to November 5th. And the wedge is pointing to that Chironic wound in the 9th house of meaning of life. Where have you felt wounded around your spiritual faith, your spiritual ideology, your connection to deep meaning in your life, maybe wounded around matters to do with academic settings, universities, colleges, and campuses, maybe also some wounds, I am not sure, but maybe also some wounds around things that have to do with visas, passports, foreign lands, and travel, feeling this kind of wound since 2019. when Chiron entered your ninth house. And the thing about this is that, yes, it was pandemic era. Nobody could travel internationally, but maybe you Leos felt it the most or something like that. Or you went to the wrong college or university and you felt wounded by it and you had to quit. But now we're also going to say, what about Jupiter? Because when Venus is trying to help heal this in this wedge formation, Jupiter's chiming in. So you're going to have some major breakthroughs also in the career gains and the money you're making in your career as it connects to having more fun, joy, play, and pleasure in your career. And as it connects to you having a great deal of deeper meaning in life, feeling like you're on your purpose, you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. You're aligned to true north. You have your compass set in the right direction around the gains of your career. Some of this love is coming from a sibling, an elder sibling in particular, could be really giving you a financial glow up with Venus in the money luck, good fortune house. And that may also liberate you to be more purposeful or to take a trip abroad. Whatever it is, that wedge feels good. October the 31st through to November the 5th. Now, I will be right back. I'm going to have a snack. All right, and we're on to the next sign. Don't forget, guys, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And also, don't, where am I? My share has disappeared. And don't forget, check out my 2025 all sign bundle, pre-sale price, or individual videos in my description box below. That sale ends October 31st. You'll never get them at this price again. They're delivered November 17th. Now, this is the next sign. We move away from Leo and we get into the sign of Virgo. And you Virgos have the experience of a 16-year encounter with Pluto and Venus coming into conjunctions every year or so in the sign of Capricorn, which is your house of sexuality, romance, fun, joy, pleasure, creativity, artistic creations, entrepreneurial businesses, and your own biological children. Well, it's been intense because this is where you've experienced death and rebirth stories. But with Venus, Pluto, it's like that where has the story taken you into toxic love. A lot of you would have had a really bad time here. I mean, I've got some Virgos who went through kind of like, some RA PE stories, also stalker stories. And I'm not going to name them, but there's some people are very close to me who went through stalker stories, betrayal, toxic love, forbidden attractions, fatal attractions, difficult romantic love stories. It's not been a bed of roses for a lot of Virgo risings in particular, right? But Virgo energy has been encountering that Pluto in the Capricorn with Venus conjunction since 2009 and have to learn about something for themselves around authentic power, empowerment. Persephone was abducted and taken to the underworld, and she was, taken advantage of by Pluto, Hades, and it became the queen of the underworld. So where have your power struggles with love and love of power struggles taken you so that you can be empowered, not the victim? This is not about you being a victim. This is about you learning through difficult circumstances how to become powerful. Okay? There may have been some really difficult things with your children, and you may have had children who have gone through their own intense stories, and that's been hard for you to watch. And yes, sadly, some of you may experience deep grief and loss regarding stories to do with children, power, love of children, children's love stories, and you're watching them on the side going, oh my God, what are they going through? I know a Virgo mother whose daughter went through a lot of intensity in her own love stories during this period. So it's not always just about you and your love, but the love your children go through that can be difficult, toxic, and challenging. Well, you're finishing the story up. I mean, this 15th of October to the 17th, the last sextile in our lifetimes of Venus from Scorpio to Pluto in your fifth house. It could be very revealing and healing and completing energetically regarding matters to do with, well, and it can also be wealth, because there's money, luck, fortunes, and speculation to do with money, wealth stories. And it can connect you more deeply as well to matters in this shorter time frame, just before the 17th of October, to things to do with news or information or phone calls or emails, those sorts of things where Venus is sitting in the third house. It really just kind of tie up the loose ends for you, and you find out what you need to know in order to complete this journey forever and ever and ever. So if you had a stalker, maybe you find out the stalker is now gone to jail for stalking another woman, and you can close the chapter on it. Something can kind of complete the circuit for you to do with Scorpio revelations and information. And third house matters often, like phone calls, text messages, and emails. And now, Virgo, what else is next? Oh, it could be an email, phone call, text message from one of your children that heals a story, or a lover, or a past lover, even. So now, when we move into the future, we're going to talk about Venus's journey on October the 10th to November 7th as she moves through this sign of Sagittarius in the bow and arrows of the sky. And it's your fourth house of real estate, property, and home. Hey guys, it's always good for decorating, buying a new sofa and pillows, repainting a room, but she also brings you luck and prosperity and good things happening there. So for example, if you want to change your home, ideal time, she's there to guide you in, like, maybe getting a new property, shifting your home. She's certainly flowing to the North Node for financial matters connected to real estate, property, and possessions. And so, yeah, some of you might end up with a new property, a new home as a result of this. And again, the window is October the 10th through to November the 17th. No, October the 17th to November the 10th. When Venus is down here this time around, she is also going to highlight the possibility of some legacy wealth, some money coming from somebody in your childhood, family of origin, someone up your family line, could come through as a breakthrough story for you as she engages in this journey through your fourth house, and she engages with the nodes of fate. So look for that. The wedge in particular that we see that we're talking about here, this is like, you can see a door stopper. This wedge is a breakthrough in your unearned income connected to maybe a female in your family line. That's basically what I can say. And it doesn't have to be someone's dying. They could just give you money, but there's some kind of financial goodness happening here. And the opposition to Jupiter is that, Jupiter's retrograde, you're deepening your bounty in the work and reputation space, but Venus wants to bring some home cooked money or home cooked prosperity. And the tension between the work you're doing and what you want to do for joy and pleasure in the home, or the home itself being joyful and pleasurable, there's a big shift coming for you with the wedge that really activates like October 31st or so through to November the 5th. You may be healing a Chironic wound about mismanagement of inheritance monies or stocks or investments or shared money with a spouse. And that wound is coming to a closing crescendo grand finale as well. Because, Chiron got all hooked up in that eclipse in April, on April 8th. He's been wounding you around those sorts of monies since 2009. So there's a shift here. And there may be a deep healing around family of origin stuff, your values around money, your values around your home and home life, and a major change coming through in a very positive way for you. And so we're looking for that sort of big shift coming up on that wedge, which is, again, as I said, a breakthrough energy. And it really is breaking through in some of the money stories in particular. And you could have a sexy hot night at home, a domestic love story going on, some sexy time in the downtime in the midnight hour. And it's also healing a wound around love, money, sex, pleasure, power of love, only because Chiron's up there, right? And I'm like, I don't know. Chiron's like, do you have a sex wound to heal? You could heal that, because both 8 house can be sexual intimacy, and the fourth house is the romantic life in the home. Because don't forget, I wouldn't be blaming you if you had sex trauma after that long Pluto stay since 2009 through your fifth house. All right, Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. The sky says to you, time to end that story that's 2009 to now, where Venus and Pluto kept meeting together and holding hands in Capricorn. This can have been loss of family members that you grew up with, mom and dad, grandparents' deaths, challenges or learnings about power, love, money, power of love, love of money, whatever, to do with inheritance monies, to do with land, property acquisitions. Some of you might have gotten rich, Venus, Pluto, by buying land and property and developing it, but other people might have also gotten rich through inheritances, or you might have even gotten into really profound power struggles around value and money and resources connected to members of family of origin, anyone that you grew up with in the household that you grew up with, especially mother and mother wounds around values, around money, around property, about resources and the home. So that story is completing because Venus is doing her last in a lifetime sextile to Pluto. And by December 7th, we're done. And that sextile is happening to occur just about the 15th to the 17th of October. And so we see the Venus is moving towards Pluto from your second house of resources, possessions, and earnings. And you may have a really nice feeling like, wow, my values are in alignment with who I am. Or, oh my gosh, what a really great prosperity moment. I got some more money, or I got to possess something of great wealth. But it may connect to also matters to do with property, land, and real estate. So you may have a breakthrough story, not a big deal necessarily. It's a sextile, but you might feel very lucky around your own financial resources and the power and wealth matters of the fourth house of home, legacy, wealth, and resources from your family. Now, as that subsides, and we see Venus moving into Sagittarius for the 17th of October to the 10th of November, Venus is moving into a stay in your third house. And this is a trips and travels story often, or a learning story, or more pleasure, fun, and joy in the neighbor and neighborhood environment, or with a younger sibling. So younger sibling, one younger than you, or fun, play, pleasure, travel, and socializing and having pleasure, going to restaurants and fun events in the neighborhood, having a very fun journey or trip that you want to take, enjoying the company of the local environment and the neighbors and neighborhood people that you could, spend some time with. Those are very much in the storyline for you during this transit. But we have this wedge that shows up, and that's going to be important. That's around Halloween. We're going to go Halloween to November the 5th. We're seeing a Venus flowing to Chironic wound in the house of business and partnership and committed marriage-like relationship wounds. And this wound has been trying to heal since 2019. This is not a new story. And we know that it is healing because that's where the eclipse happened in April. And so we're eclipsing that wound, and Venus is adding her 2 cents in a turnaround breakthrough story. And the breakthrough story is showing up for you. Again, Halloween to November 5th, and Jupiter wants to help out. So breakthroughs in long-term committed love stories and business partnerships and legal contracts connected to book publishing deals, higher learning, educational settings, travel opportunities with the one you love that are going to give you a beautiful glow up, and maybe also some really big breakthroughs around your spiritual faith connected to long-term committed love stories, because that's where Jupiter sits. All said and done, it's a breakthrough in the way you connect to long-term business and love partners or legal contractual agreements that you may make, including ones that include marriage. Breakthrough energy, Jupiter in the house of religion and churches, Venus down below, who's proposing marriage to who, or which business contract deal, especially like in publishing, for instance, is going to light you up, and it could really look good on you. So look forward to that. And that again is Halloween to November the 5th. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. It looks to me like you've been dealing up a lot of energy here with Pluto and Venus coming back to you. I need to get my grounding mat under my foot. Pluto and Venus have been activating you since 2009 in the Capricorn sky, and that's your third house. And that could be a wound with a sibling, one younger than you. That could be a wound with matters to do with your friendship circles, local neighbor friends, friends from your childhood. Things to do with your online social life, or writing and social media and websites, and this profound story. Now, it's not a wound necessarily. It's just Pluto, Venus, Pluto, Venus, Pluto, Venus, but that's intensity. And it's like the love of power, the power of love. What were you doing since 2009 in this part of your sky where you didn't get necessarily all the easiest storylines unfolding? With that, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews, matters to do with writing, right? Matters to do with communication, online social media stories, etc. So you may have just been working it through, feeling it out. It's not the worst case for you. It does sextile you, and in other words, there is a sextile relationship between Pluto, Venus conjunctions in your third house since 2009. But nonetheless, it's still never an easy story. Probably a lot of you had very difficult circumstances with extended family members, or your younger sibling, one younger than you, or siblings in general. Now, with that story coming to a close, look to the end of it, 15th to the 17th, when Venus in Scorpio sextiles Pluto from your first house. It's a real sweet touch. You are Venus. You are beautiful, handsome, persuasive, charismatic, and vitally attractive and magnetic, and all the good things that Venus is giving you. And you look over at Pluto, and there's a sweet spot. Is it a beautiful, dreamy, powerful opportunity to engage in a social event with friends or in the neighborhood, or a trip, or something that really taking off in your social media online sphere that brings a great, powerful energy of success, especially if you're an artist or creative and you have a nice glow up or just before the 17th of the month of October. But then Venus is going to move into your second house. And as she goes into your second house, she's about your money. She wants you to find more well, it's your values, it's what you eat and what you put through your nose and mouth. That's going to bring you pleasure. But she's also about your financial wellness and the resources you have. And she's a money goddess. And so it glows you up in the money story. Yay, you. And this is Halloween. Well, no, so it's a wedge. This is October the 17th to November 10th. Around Halloween, Venus is going to create a breakthrough wedge, and it can give you some chunky money. Where does it come from? I don't know. But she's talking to Pluto in the house of inheritances or bank loans or stocks taking off or insurance payouts or tax rebates. You don't earn the money. It comes to you in a chunk, added income on YouTube, royalty income on your book, and boom. There's this energy about the financial story. There's tension there. You don't really maybe always want to work so hard, and Jupiter's deepening your bounty in the chunky money story, and money from the past that should come to you may be arriving. But the breakthrough comes through the sixth house of debts. In debt, it's like the indebted service, okay? Indentured servitude. You have karmic debt to pay off, and you've been slaving away to pay it off ever since 2019 when Chiron entered here. Now that might be real debt. You owe somebody. I know a Scorpio had to pay a loan off, and it was brutal. It was a family loan with a high interest rate, and it was not fair. And he just was slaving under that energy, okay? So the idea that you've been indebted and had to pay off a debt, it's karmic debts. So the relationships you've had since 2019, the workspace, it's a workspace. Your work feels like you're an indentured servant, a slave in your work. It's all duty, no destiny. You've been wounded here since 2019. So due money, they don't pay it back, something like that. Now, ultimately, this is ending anyway because of the eclipse of April the 8th, but now Venus is giving a nudge in that direction. So look to October 31st to November the 5th for a glow up, in the sense of all the hard work you did to pay off your debts is going to glow you up in a financial breakthrough of some sort of good news around the money and the work stories. It could even be you worked like at a job where they're paid you, and then they suddenly recognize you're worth more, and you get a massive payoff, a bonus, a sign-on package for a new job. I don't know, some kind of financial upliftment can come through the workhouse as well. And yeah, I'm going to go with that. And you could have a really golden opportunity to buy a house or sell a house with Jupiter up in the 8th house as well, or refinance a loan to very favorable terms. For example, look for that glow up, that breakthrough wedge coming through the sky, Halloween through to November the 5th. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. First of all, it's Pluto and Venus in Capricorn since 2009. 16 times meeting together there, and you have been under financial transformation of some sort. Venus is a money goddess. You kept meeting with Pluto, wealth and power, in the house of your resources financially and your values around money. It's not money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money is the root of all evil. I can't believe how many people don't know that. So where have you come to terms with money and power and resources and values since 2009? And this last Pluto Venus story is coming to a close. And some of you may struggle with letting go of addictions as well, just because Venus is pleasure in the mouth and Pluto is death. So end of pleasurable activities that are bad for you. That could have been another story you've been going on with for 16 years. When it finishes up the 15th to the 17th of October, Venus is in a flow from Scorpio, the house of self-undoing and addiction. So it's a last stop for you to quit something if you need to. You will have done it, or you will finalize that in terms of self-undoing and addictions. But also you could have a financial glow up from money from foreign shores, foreign entities, foreign companies, companies, foreign people, foreign commerce, and you may have a nice little financial glow coming for you in that area of the sky. And also finally, because Venus is in a kind of a secretive house, where you do things alone, some project you do all by yourself, some creative endeavors may have a big financial payoff showing up for you around the 15th to the 17th of the month. Then we move on and we talk next about, wow, she's going into Sagittarius and she's going to be there on the 17th of the month of October to the 10th of November. And as she goes through that chart spot every year, you are attractive, beautiful, charismatic and persuasive, likable and congenial. It gives you a whole facial body mind complex glow up. Of course, if it's your sun, it gives you a glow up in your career, your moon, home and body and mind and mood. But your ascendant, everything about the character you play is glowed up. Thank you, Venus, coming through for a glow up all through the month, all through the window of time that she's in Sagittarius. And then the next thing about her travel here is that as she moves through this part of the sky, and it's about the big ask. If you have asked for favors or you need somebody to give you something and you want to ask them for help, you've got this kind of charismatic, persuasive vibe. So you can get a charm offensive, right? You've got it. You can do it. Good to ask for the rate, ask the friends for favors, ask your husband or wife for help on something and get the yes you want, ask someone to marry you. Now, the wedge is important. There's a wedge forming here. It can bring some nice breakthrough energy in the sky. And this will be like Halloween through to November the 5th, in which Venus is going to be talking in a very favorable manner to the Chironic wound in the house of children, romance, sexuality, and also creativity and also entrepreneurial baby births, and also fertility and pregnancy. Now, if you've been struggling to get pregnant, Venus in the house of your body as sperm and ovum goddess flowing to your 5th house, you got some luck on your side here. But also you've been wounded here in the sexual romantic life part of your chart since 2019 as Chiron has been traveling there. It's ending anyway because of our April 8th eclipse, but this is Venus's add-on. And she's saying, well, where have you been wounded in long-term committed love and sexual relationships? End of story. So simple to me. I mean, you could say you've been wounded in business partnerships that are entrepreneurial, or you've been involved in legal conflicts around business matters that are entrepreneurial. For most of you, it's going to be a wound around romance, love, true love, sexuality, or children and fertility and long-term partners. And that's turning around. And there's something trying to heal. Now, with Jupiter retrograde in your 7th, that doesn't mean a relationship that with a long-term partner that's struggling, say, in the romance department continues. It could be a blessed ending, but there's a healing happening. Thank you, Venus, that brings you feeling good about the outcome, October 31st to November the 5th. And if you want to have a child, you could try to get pregnant under this. And if you have children, wounds you've sustained in your relationships to your children can be resolved in this time frame. Okay, so that's your turnaround story. Let me know what happens. Love to hear in the comments what happens for you guys. Okay. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is your narrative here where you have experienced Pluto in the sign of you since 2008, actually, but Venus-Pluto conjunction since 2009. It's not easy to have this happening directly to your sun, your career, directly to your moon, your mind, body, and home matters, or to your ascendant, everything about you. The fundamental lesson is power and love. Is it the love of power or the power of love that you've been trying to deal with here? Because you have to go under the surface of who you are and what you want in career, home, and whole body, mind complex character stories of who you are, ascendant. So it's a deep dive. It's an excavation of what you value and what real love looks like. Who do you love? Do you love yourself? Is there a self to love? These are the deeper questions of Pluto with Venus in the 1st house. And this is finalizing. This is never back again. As of December 7th, my partner has a sun in Pluto, and he said, I learned to love myself during this time. Well, that was one of the lessons. There's deeper ones. You could really find yourself having this endpoint of the 15th to the 17th, the completion, the last sextile in the lifetime between Venus and Pluto in this arrangement, to do with a beautiful outcome with an elder sibling, one above you in particular, but any elder sibling maybe, a beautiful story emerging to do with values and benefactors and allies with a friend offering you something, a favor or something good on the 15th through to the 17th, like a cosmic or karmic reward from the house of good spirit, where Venus will be at the end of Scorpio in your 11th house, or the realization of a longer held goal or dream that you thought was unattainable and having it emerge as a visible possibility, and your appreciation of that turning around. And that would again be, as I said, the 15th to the 17th, the closing chapter, because by December 7th, you are done, done, done. No more of that story. What about Venus moving into Sagittarius? What does that mean for you? Well, when she's in Sagittarius, she's in your 12th house. And that's an enlightenment house, moksha, spiritual liberation. It's bed pleasures and what you do for enjoyment in your downtime, private, alone, sacred solitude. And she's going to bring pleasure there. You might have more fun in the bedroom, or your fun in your own bedroom by yourself. You might have more fun just enjoying your solace and solitude. Often it's the ashram hermit vibe, and Venus is like pleasurable alone time. And you may be seeking that or finding that without even knowing that between the 17th of the month of October and November the 10th, you're going to be alone. But you may also find that pleasurable. You might travel abroad, and that might bring great pleasure and joy as well. And finally, Venus can bring you money from international people, revenue, and international sources during that time. When Venus makes a wedge in the sky, she's going to help you heal a wound called the Chironic wound of the fourth house that you've been dealing with since 2019. It's the wound of not belonging to where you live, to whom you live with. Your domestic life feels unwell, but maybe also you don't know where your home is. P.D. Eastman's book, Are You My Mother, from the 60s, is like, are you my home? Are you my home? You're trying to find your home. Where is your true home? And so in essence, being an outcast from a sense of belonging and being at home is something that wants to heal. And this can be a nice turning point as Venus is flowing to Chiron and the wound of home and homecoming and belonging. And she's doing that on October 31st through to November 5th. Well, she also has a conversation with Jupiter where you might have been struggling with some kind of sense of debt, karmic debt, needs to be paid off here, and you've been doing noble and good service. Let's say you've been servitudinal to pay off a debt to a person, to a situation, to a job environment. You've been just doing it. You've been like Jupiter, going for it in a sense of hope, faith, and optimism that by paying off the debts that you owe, literally and metaphorically, you're going to have a greater bounty. He's retrograde, so these are things to do with your past. And the flow is about the home. Jupiter's moving towards the house of home right now. Where are you going to find a new home? He's in the house of rental contracts and pets. And home and pets and rentals and rental agreements can also be deeply satisfying for a sense of finding one's truer home. And real home can be in a land far off foreign shore and land from the one in which you were born. That's another way, especially with Chiron North Node, meaning the foreigner, the outsider, and Venus in the 12th house. Some of you may be looking at homing yourself towards a foreign place or foreign land as a result of what's going on in the sky at the time of Halloween through to November the 5th. Let me know how that rolls. I'd like to hear back from you. Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising. I am one of you. It is a sky that talks about the end at last of Pluto and Capricorn in our 12th house. This is a spiritual enlightenment house, and Pluto Capricorn in Venus conjunctions happen since 2009. This is about the love of power, the power of love, but in a deeply spiritual house, it has been about devotion, surrender, awakening spiritually for a lot of Aquariuses. If you didn't go down the awakening spiritually route with the Venus-Pluto conjunctions, did you go through some deeper transformation regarding betrayals and hidden enemies regarding money and power matters? Did you go through some difficult circumstances with addictions and self-undoing that have led to almost like death and rebirth experiences within your own psyche? Have you had major life transformations since 2009 with people dying in hospitals, nearly or actually? I can attest to that. I have been at bedside deathbeds in hospitals since then. It's been deeply transformative of my identity. all right, of who I am. And I've experienced the near death of people in my life during this transition, including my own child, my son. So you have been through the ringer of this kind of thing. Hospitals is the 12th house. Now, these deep dives of soul work that you've been under are closing out, and it is lending itself to the last gift from Venus that happens on the 15th to the 17th of November, as from your 10th house of career and reputation, she flows to Pluto in the house of backroom deals and negotiations, the house of wealth generated from foreign lands and foreign shores. That includes, ka-ching, money made through payment processors internationally like Stripe and PayPal. So there's a nice little ka-ching on a financial matter, or also to do with a healing regarding some of the difficult traumas you've had regarding death and near death of people in your life. The window of 15th to the 17th is also just practically good for career matters, having a glow up from deep, intense soul work that you've been doing for a 16-year window of time. So look for this kind of like, I just hit at my stride. I hit something powerful and new. I feel I'm on top of my world and my career, my reputation matters. I'm popular in the workplace. The bosses love me. I got a favor or something like that. So that's a story that looks like a nice sweet spot for you on the 15th to the 17th. And then by December 7th, it's done. There is no more. There is no more Venus Pluto stories to do with your 12th house. Then we move forward and we notice that Venus will move through Sagittarius, your 11th house of good spirit, and she will be in Sagittarius for a while. This is October the 17th and November the 10th. This is a house of karmic and cosmic rewards, money and great gains from one's career, reputation enhancements, celebrity. Venus in the 11th house can also bring you greater influence over large groups of people and can bring social networking, love, and joy to you. You might have more fun with large groups of belonging, social events, social networking, increases in your finances from your career. And so you can look forward to that every year. And here we are again. But this time she's also going to, and really good relations with a sibling, one older, and favors from friends in high places. But then she's also going to form a really, really, really beautiful wedge breakthrough energy for you. And it's going to happen around the 31st of October to the 5th of November. Where have you been wounded since 2019 in your third house? Short distance travel, younger sibling relationship, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephew relationships, skills-based learning or teaching, and or writing, communicating, and social media projects. Where have you been third house wounded? Or the neighbors and neighborhood, I'm Aquarius rising. I can testify. I haven't found my neighborhood I really want to be in. I haven't been able to write a damn thing since 2019. I couldn't travel because of the pandemic and my non-compliant status for medical procedures and all that kind of stuff. So, these wounds have been here in many ways for Aquarians. And also I've had some blows with a sibling younger, there's things like that. So one younger. So where are you healing this story anyway? Right? The big eclipse of April the 8th embedded the Chironic wound and you're healing it anyway. But Venus is collaborating October 31st to November the 5th. And she's bringing some kind of good spirit and good fortune. Now, with Jupiter in the lottery win house or speculation, casinos, gaming, ways to win money, you could indeed win some money off of this. Jupiter is a part of the wedge with Venus. And so, yeah, it looks like you might have a karmic cosmic reward and you may indeed win some money. And this can also be very healing with sibling relationships, one above and one below you, like if you're in the middle there. And you're also going to be able to have some sense of some kind of breakthrough when it comes to maybe writing projects or social media projects or website stuff where Chiron is sitting. And Jupiter just says, well, creative project takes off or your entrepreneurial business takes off. He's in the entrepreneurial house. He's deepening your bounty. When it has a breakthrough energy, though, is in the third house. It has to do with the environment in which you are every day swimming in, right? As Adam Elibas says, it's a fishbowl in which you swim. Oh yeah, what's water, says the fish. You're so used to it. And there's a breakthrough there. Possibly you could have a breakthrough in neighbors and neighborhood and transition to a foreign or new neighborhood. A change your neighborhood would be a bit normal thing to say with this. It looks very possible. But also just remember that, Venus is in the house of good spirit. And some of the luck that you can have with Venus in that house is like a windfall or pennies from heaven. It's a karmic rewards. It's what you're deserving for all the hard work you did to pay off karmic debt. You pay the debt, you have the karma in the 8th house, you pay the debt in the 6th house, and you get the rewards in the 11th. So what service have you done and what hard work have you done in service of something noble and good? Because the rewards seem to want to land on your doorstep, October 31st to November the 5th. So let me know where it goes, guys. Not everyone's going to win a lottery ticket. I mean, that would be unrealistic, right? Something good is trying to happen in that part of our sky. Wait, and if you're single and you're looking for love, a new romance through social networks, groups of friends, and travel could emerge for you singletons, October 31st to November the 3rd. Oh my gosh, I'm finally almost done. So Pisces, sun, moon, and rising sign. It looks to me like you have to finally kiss goodbye Pluto and Capricorn with Venus and Capricorn on the yearly since 2009. Now, that can have led to a lot of difficulty and a difficult trauma or conflict or challenges regarding your elder sibling in you, one above you, or loss and death of friends that you love dearly passing from your life. One of my Pisces rising friends had lost his beloved, who was more like his best friend, in a car accident during this time. So there's been this kind of intensity around loss of those people that you would consider an ally, a benefactor, a friend, even if they're your partner or they're more your friend. You've been dealing with trauma, loss, power struggles, value, love of money, and power when it comes to your relationship to your money and your career. You see, you make money from the 10th house through the gains of the 11th. And so if you've been complicated and value stories to do with what your values are around money and earnings and rewards in your career, this story is finally finishing. You've been going through this intense journey of this discovery or even transformation about what you value, Venus and Pluto, power regarding long-range goals and dreams for your life. So all of that stuff has been germinating since 2009, and now it's done because on the 15th to the 17th, Venus will come into a sextile relationship from Scorpio to Pluto in Capricorn, and this is the last in a life. And Venus is going to say, here is a final act from the 9th house. Now, the 9th house can be the house of the sibling two above you and some healing in that connection and some breakthrough up there. This can be something good coming from the house of legal matters, foreign lands, visas, and passports, book publishing, and things to do with spiritual faith and religious settings and religious beliefs. Something Venus is applying from that 9th house to Pluto on the 11th house can bring a karmic reward to you as a last gift for the lessons you've been trying to learn in the 11th house of good spirit. Then we move into the next story, and that is Venus is moving through Sagittarius from the 17th of October to the 10th of November. This is always going to give you a glow up in your career and reputation. You usually will do well, get hired, get a new job, the boss loves you, get a raise, get a promotion. If you're self-employed, be more popular, more celebritied out. You're just having enjoyment of the work you do. Your work and career and reputation is getting a glow up. So that's the story of the Venus transit. But this time around, she gets involved in a wedge. And the wedge is about healing a chironic wound that you've been dealing with around your financial matters or your facial appearance or your teeth or your nose or your food style and what you eat and what you put through your nose and mouth. And addictions are included. And so you're healing this chironic wound. In most of you, it's resources and finances, earnings and money, not all of you. And you've been healing this kind of wound around your values and resources, money and your values, your self-esteem and your self-worth and your finances. Been ongoing healing stories since 2019. And Venus from the 10th house of career and reputation flows to the Chironic wound to lift you above it all. And the support from Jupiter to the Chironic wound in the 4th house of land, property, home, and real estate. You may get some kind of financial glow up connected to someone in your family of origin, connected to some female in your family of origin, connected to matters to do with career, reputation, deepening your bounty from home base, and the past and things close to you, close to your home, and your job close to home. You may find, there's an opportunity for some kind of financial advancement connected to your marriage partner, significant other, and that also supports your inner glow as well. That's just because Venus is talking to planets in your 8th house of shared resources while she glows at the top of the sky and flows to this Chironic wealth wound. And so rather than try to guess all the ways that it heals, your most dream job is offered to you. You get to change home, and or you're able to possess a better home or sell a home and find yourself, feeling great because now your expenses are so much less. You're, able to change some things here that significantly give you a financial healing is what I'm going for. Again, October 31st-ish to November the 5th. Let me know, guys, how it happens to play out. You have luck in the home, around the home, from the home, expand your home, good news in the home. So keep that in mind. That's what Jupiter's doing in your 4th house. So he's not going anywhere until next June. So again, career, home, money matters are all kind of pivotal around October 31st to November the 5th. And the positive breakthrough is to do mostly for most of you with financial resources and matters to do with the career and home stories. All right. Thanks for listening. I hope that's useful. Let me know in the comments how it does go out, how it happens when that you get to that time. I'd love to hear back from you. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I forgot to remind you during the premiere. Don't forget to check out this beautiful Otter Spirit jewelry. I'm not kidding you. I cannot wait to order more stuff. Well, they gifted me this, but I'll order stuff because I think that they're like the prosperity bracelet with the jade, and they're all like little 3-packs and stuff. They're just genius, and they're giving support to otters. I should have read more about it, like otter support, maybe otters in the wilderness or otters stuck in dams. I should read about it next time I share. But I just love the jewelry independent of the Otter Spirit support group part of it. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you on the next video. This is coming out on Thursday. My Patreon community gets this Tuesday, October the 15th. If you want early access, ad-free content, and you don't want to have to watch the ads on YouTube, and you want to get it before the public for $5 measly a month, and you can quit anytime. And I've got a bunch of other cool stuff you get. Go check out Patreon. Okay, it's Patreon/Lunatic Astrology, but go check it out. Description box below. Come join my tribe over there. You get lots of action with me. 3 Zoom meetings a month, depends on your tier. I go into we have chat conversations in the chat forum where I'm getting back to you on topics we're discussing together. So we have more intimacy over there. So check it out. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful Venus transit through Sagittarius.